Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this is, of course, the Talamanca Review. And I'm just going to sort of sum up tonight. I guess you could in some ways call this It's All Planned Part 3. It's all part of the plan. And I guess you could say some of the plan is cosmic. It has nothing to do with the agencies of the various races, extra-dimensional, extraterrestrial, spiritual, and their desires. Although they play a big role in what's happening now, it's not going to work out the way they planned. And that's just the way it goes down here, man. You know, it's like the Johnny Cash song. You can run on for a long time, but sooner or later, God's going to cut you down. And I've seen that law, that rule pan out 100 times in my life. And it's almost, I'd say, infallible, you know. So what I guess I'm trying to do on the Talamanca Review is give you something approximating truth about what's going on in this world, in Western society. And Western society is the easiest one to sum up because, well, it's my birth culture. I'm born in the epicenter of it, the passive epicenter, the northern United States that some people call Canada. And just sat back and watched it all go down, you know. Never thought I'd end up talking about it, you know, aside from conversations you have with friends in rarefied moments like a camping trip around a fire or a cottage, something like that. Not the first night either. The third or fourth night if you're staying for a week after you've relaxed and you're really getting to things, so to speak. So, I'm going to say this out loud just so I remember to deal with it in this podcast. I'm going to flesh out the concept of the Antichrist. And I'm going to do it in a way that came to me today. But I'll do that later in the podcast. So, I think last night was just a gold mine. You know, and you got to see things for what they are. And then you got to figure out why they do things the way they do. And the answer to that question is because they can't do it without you. And that means they have to harness you. They have to bring you into their plan as an emotive contributant to the iconography that they've set up as the plan. And it's always very iconic. This is the principle of branding as well in corporations, literally. There's a lot of good commenters out there who can connect modern branding to ancient symbolism. And that's all interesting and everything, but the truth is, it doesn't mean bunk, okay? Most of the stuff that passes as informed commentary is a ham-fisted best guess at what's going on the astral. What I'm giving you is a much bigger picture of how the whole machine of this hologram works and how it's manipulated by powerful and super intelligent forces, much more intelligent than the average human being, much more intelligent than me. So you might say, well, Bruce, how'd you figure it out? How can you figure out the plan of a force or a principality or an entity or a group of entities or beings working in this manner? And the truth is, I don't figure anything out. Spirit just gives it to me. It comes in pictures. I have to figure out what they are. But then I get a lot of help unknotting the meaning. And this happens in my timeline. And this is a critical understanding, okay? When you're functioning properly, you will get information internally in the same way that you get information at a lecture hall at university. It's almost a one-to-one match. So you go into meditation and you get something approximating a lecture. Yeah. My wife texting me photos of our nephew. The cutest little dude. My wife just loves kids. By the way, folks, that's about men. That is about the best quality you can find in a woman that you want to make a life with. I mean, unless you're both committed to something that is devotional, research scientists, doctors, research doctors looking for cures. It's a good life. I don't mean to be so absolute about this family thing, okay? And there's many different types of meaningful lives that don't have anything to do with children, okay? But for the vast majority of us, schlepping through life in flip-flops and cut-off t-shirts, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a woman who loves children. Because a woman who loves children loves life. And a woman who loves life loves God. And a woman who loves children, life, and God can love you. And stay committed to that love. And if you understand what she loves and you can support that, and that's a good thing to support. It's what men are supposed to do, right? Support women like that. Then you get part of the credit for spreading all that love and making things grow, because you keep food in the nest, you keep the nest going, right? And that's an important thing. It's not as grandiose as the incredible spiritual work that women and mothers do. And it has to be stated that I'm talking about the Central American experience now, and they love children here. Well, that's it for that cigar. We're down to one lighter, and my son has it all the time, and I don't even have a candle lit here, anyways. Enough with the smoking, I guess. Actually, one sec. I just noticed there's a toad in the room. I'll just let him sit in the corner there. So, where was I? What was I talking about? Tying up it's all planned. Part of the plan is cosmic. They're smarter than us. Spirit tells me. Oh yeah, then you tie it off, okay? And the inner and the outer are supposed to work together. And they always do. They always do. So if you have a bad entity and you're having bad dreams, the outer correlation will be paranormal phenomenon, things moving around. You might not see it. they're actually not supposed to break the rules and do stuff like that. They get into serious trouble on the other side. But just like at times there's little or no policing on this planet, at times there's little or no policing on the astral plane. It's really that simple, folks. People overcomplicate things. It's really no more complicated than that. So you get a lot of tie-offs. It's almost like an inwardly commenced scavenger hunt that finishes in the world. That sums up the search for God as well. Search for self. I don't think morality has too much to do with it. But if, the religious ethics are just, I think they're pretty much just set up to keep commerce flowing. Because the people who create and maintain those religious rules, they don't follow any of it themselves. Catholic priest has to take a vow of poverty. They just play with the straw man. It means he can't own anything in his name. But if you actually live the life, look at the life they live, the place they live, and the comfort they live in, and the quality of their diet and everything, there's nothing poor about it. It's just a complete horseshit. And then the Vatican itself is one of the richest entities on the planet. So don't tell me about any fucking vow of poverty. Smack you in the side of the head with a fucking piece of wood. To understand the Antichrist, you have to understand how consciousness works. And very few people do. Most of the New Agers, Reiki healers, they have a small comprehension of the astral or the fourth dimension and how to negotiate certain energetic transactions there. But many of them can't even do that well and suffer horribly after a decade or so of practicing Reiki, especially if they make their living at it. Reiki's okay if you do it for free, but if you charge for it, you're just asking for a world of hurt. And that's the God's honest truth, man. You're just asking for a world of hurt. As I near my 60th year now, I can tell you that I've seen these things play out. I've been in this game now for since I was 17, and I'm 58 now. 4 decades. I've seen it all, folks. And because I was so committed to the journey of consciousness everywhere I went in my travels, I sought counsel. I've told you all these stories before. They're all in The Devil in Us as well. And I've met some extraordinary figures in various disciplines and fields. So the way consciousness works in the human form is the best way to approach this topic. How it works informs life and all of these things. I could probably take a stab at explaining that, but why bother? But I'll tell you how it works for us. And again, I'm going to borrow from the Gospels, okay? Because there's a lot of truth in the Gospels. The power of forgiveness is something that you should always keep in mind. Power of love. Anyways, so the way consciousness works is like this. Rule number 1, it's always working. Always. So if you think you're just in manifestation phase when you sit down and do some ham-fisted ritual you invented, lighting a candle, a stick of incense, and I'm really going to concentrate on what I want to manifest now. No. It's working all the time. It never stops. We're in a constant state of manifestation. Okay? You can manifest misery. You can manifest bad luck. You can manifest misfortune. You can manifest depression. You can manifest isolation. You can manifest violence. You can manifest anger. And every single time you allow your consciousness to get into a negative state of mind, realize you're counter-creating everything you've built. So the point I was going to borrow from the Bible was the importance of faith, which can be, as Richard Bach said in Illusions, his book, can be substituted for the word imagination. You have to believe that this manifestation power is working all the time. And you have to police counterproductive constructs in your consciousness. And we all manifest destructive iconography in our consciousness. And it always 100% pivots off I. I didn't deserve this. I. And you're setting up misfortune for yourself and living a very unpeaceful life. And I actually prefer vaping to smoking. I'm just smoking a bit because my son's here. And I bought all the tobacco for him, so I may as well get my money's worth. So you're in a constant state of manifestation. So a lot of times what you have to do is you have to give it up. You have to give up all the power and you have to say, look, I can't run this life. And you have to ask for God's help, and God is you. I know that sounds blasphemous, but it's you. It's you in a dormant, unawakened state as you stumble through this life thinking you're Joe Smith or Betty Smith. It's you. It's you and it's not you. It's you and it's everybody else, but it's you. And you have to give it all back and say, look, I can't manage this. I need help. I need you to help me get through this because my emotions are making me manifest counterproductive things. So that's what I did. I gave a lot of it back. And then I get taken care of. It's the absolute faith that your higher self or God, whatever you want to put in there, okay? I mean, the Eastern religions, for the most part, don't have a God. They have gods. The gods are bridges between you and God, which they call the infinite reality, the prime creator. Most people have no idea how much power has been invested in them. If the average human being understood in a moment how much has been invested in them, they'd have a nervous breakdown. You just look at the body, what the body can do when a proper host is taking care of it and running it. A yogi, a highly advanced Taoist, a Qigong master. You just look at what a human body can do, coupled with the right connection with the energies above us. And you realize most people, given these lives and given these bodies, it would be analogous to giving somebody a Lamborghini. They don't even know it's an automobile, and they're trying to make toast on the hood with the sun. Is this what it is? Is it a toaster? It's that absurd. Hey, buddy, you come to say hello? Leave the toad alone, okay? You want to say hello? Okay, come here. There you go. This is my girl, Lulu. Yeah, baby. Okay. Okay. Out. There you go. She just pops in and says hello. I never have the two of them off the leash at the same time. One of them always has to be leashed, because the two of them together just wreak havoc in the pueblo. They go off and they hunt. They're like wolves. Alone, very loving. Okay, so we are the creators of this reality, and most people come in and they live these lives now, and what the controllers have done is they've set the life up like IKEA. Here's your life, unbox it, here are the manuals, put it, oh, good for you, you're very good at this. We're going to give you a special role, you did it faster than everybody else. We're going to make you chairman of this institution. We're going to do this, and this for you. Oh, you're doing okay. There's nothing wrong with you. You've put your IKEA furniture together very good. Your life. It's literally that banal what's going on the planet now. There's no adventure left. Mind you, in truth, there's really no frontiers left. There haven't really been any frontiers since the Europeans started exploring and colonizing. But there's one last frontier, and it's here. And that's the only frontier now. It's the last place to explore. Now they're trying to convince us there's another frontier, space, but we're not getting off this rock. I mean, maybe certain subgroups have, the Nazis and the secret space program, basically the Nazis and the Zionists. But they did it with help, and they did it by selling out a lot of us, normal human beings. Don't ever forget that, okay? They're backstabbing fucks, all of them, Nazis and Zionists. Okay? And all the rules have been broken. You're not supposed to leave a planet at this state of consciousness. We're supposed to be living something like the natives were living 500 years ago. I'm not even joking. All of this technology, if you notice it, I think Michael Sarion is right when he gives his timeline. The technological blueprint for the last 500 years was given to Edward Kelly and John Dee. studying their Enochian magic. And by the way, even though the Jews weren't formally let back into Europe until about the mid 1600s, they were there, and you can see you can see the encroachment of this Kabbalistic magic into the British aristocracy all through the 1600s. The female writer Cavendish was a Kabbalist. She was a duchess. She's writing books in like 1654 about the inner earth and all of these things. It's all Kabbalah. Okay, it all goes back to the Kabbalah. And so many people get the timeline wrong, and I don't know why the camera keeps swinging like that. So many people get the timeline wrong. And I don't know if they're doing it deliberately, just to screw with people, or whether they really believe what they're saying. I don't want to name any names. There's one guy who's really had the fire put to his feet lately. I've mentioned him before on my podcast, but I don't feel like doing that tonight. But the simple story is the world we're living in now begins with the Jewish takeover of England. And they are a takeover people. Okay? They're a takeover people. And they have something to sell. They have something that intrigues people. It's this magic. That's what they're selling, is this magic, this soothsaying. They're like postdoctoral gypsies, is how I see Jews. People used to go and see the gypsies to get their palms read and stuff like that. And that's how the Jews go into society. They share their magic and they share their wealth, or loan to the important people of a country. So it has to do with lending and their very weird religion, which is power-based and it fulfills desires. Why wouldn't an aristocracy be interested in that? It makes complete sense when you think about it, right? Not too hard to understand, is it? It's just that simple. And they did it in Amsterdam too. They've completely done it in America. But anyways, I'm getting off track. So around the time of, Dee and Kelly, and they begin engaging a group of entities they call the macrobes. And they're given these blueprints in kind of like a raw data format. And it's all this information. And it's how to make energy out of matter and make matter out of energy. To the best of my knowledge, we haven't fulfilled matter out of energy yet. They could have it done already. Remember, these guys are generally decades ahead of what's in the public. But energy out of matter, they did. They did that with the atomic bomb. So, there you go. And the story goes, according to Michael Sarion, this is what the macrobes gave to Dee and Kelly. And I believe them. And it took a long time, working through a concerted human effort over generations in the university system to crack the codes on these things. But there was a starting point, and there was an understanding that it could be done and that it was a reality. So if you've ever asked yourself, where does stuff come from? Oh, they're so smart. They figured out how to split the atom. Well, they were told. And like, don't get me wrong, there was work to do to fulfill the understanding of what they were told, but they were told. Then the question becomes, who's telling them? Well, Deegan Kelly said that they were talking to this race of beings that they called the macrobes. So there's a microbial world and there's a macrobial world. And that's how they say they got it. And all of the templates that we've been given in the public to focus our energy into, because they're using our energy, all of these templates come from the transmissions from the races or entities that they're interacting with. You can look at that any number of ways. It doesn't bother me. You can look at it spiritually if you want to say they're demons to fit it into your cosmology. Again, I'm not gonna fight with you. I've done podcasts where I explain the difference between these things, but it is what it is. If you want to believe that this is extraterrestrial, that's okay too. For me, I don't, the details at this, for what's going on the planet, I think spending a whole bunch of time trying to get the correct details is meaningless. I think once you have the context, you have everything you need. And so the context is simply higher order individuated intelligence than human beings outside of physical form in our three-dimensional reality are communicating with human beings which formed secret societies to secretly, intergenerationally carry on the work of these manifestations of these communications. And as the reality that was given began to manifest and come into the understanding of the elites first, which is that we are co-creating in this reality, rather than share that as a spiritual principle with the whole human race, to see what individuated human beings could do with the knowledge they were co-creators with the divine. What they did is they occulted that information and set up templates for us to focus our energies on. The cross is one. Okay, and that is focusing all your energy on the cross. Sorry, folks, I gotta agree with the Jews here. It's idolatry. Okay, God is formless. To understand God, you have to become God, and to become God, you also have to become formless. Formless, absent human feeling that is in a reactive state to positive or negative, laughing, crying, absent an emotional state reacting to physical phenomenon, not brooding on memory or contemplating the future, and not stuck in a sequence of thoughts. And you just have to sit and be. And that is the starting point. That is your true being. You're not thinking. So when they learned this principle of co-creation, they occulted it from the rest of us and thought of themselves and realized immediately, we can use this information to get other human beings to do all of our work and worship us, and we can set up a paradise for ourselves and the people we invite in. It's that simple, not complicated. And this has been going on for 500 years now. Okay? And we're still doing it now. We're still putting our energy in the wrong places. If you're putting your energy into someone like Elon Musk, you're a fucking moron. I don't want to live in any world Musk creates. Happy for the Starlink, thank you, but somebody would have figured that out. It's not that hard. Although getting the rocket technology to get all the satellites into low orbit, I think that was the real tricky part, and kudos to him. But the future he has envisioned for humanity is blasphemous. We shouldn't be going out into space. We don't belong there yet. We're not developed enough. We're going to run into things that are going to be like a 3-year-old meeting a 50-year-old. We're going to have no defenses. And we're going to draw a lot of attention to ourselves. And we were quietly living on this planet up until about 500 years ago. It's not a good idea, as far as I'm concerned. So that's not a good way forward. The way forward is within. Without going completely, it's interesting. My son and Bob and I had an interesting conversation tonight over dinner. I made a homemade pasta. I made the pasta myself with eggs and flour. It was delicious. And we were telling Bob about our trip to India in like 2011, 2012. And we were trying to describe India to Bob. And if you've never been to India, it's almost impossible for someone who's been there to give you a description of it. It's such an overwhelming experience, you have to have it yourself because there are no words. It's like another reality on this planet altogether. But they're so far off the rails now, it isn't funny. Because they've never put enough time and attention into this world. So the truth of how we should be living is something of a midpoint between the Jewish emphasis on developing the world and developing ourselves intellectually and setting up systems of governance and social organization, which in some measure is true, but not to the absolute point that the Jews take it. It's ridiculous. And they don't do enough inner work, which is why they haven't really risen beyond black magic and basically a stupid and superstitious religion that still wants to kill animals to atone for sins. All right? There you go. And then you go to the inward-centered countries like India. Everybody's shitting on the streets. There's no rules. People don't stop at traffic lights. It's chaos, right? So obviously both systems are extremes. And yet both are needed. Isn't that interesting? Anyways, I'm deviating and I shouldn't be doing this. So all of our collective energy has manifested this situation that we're in now. And one of the reasons we haven't allowed our hearts to speak and question what's going on is we've been given so much by way of distraction. So for 2 millennia, we live, aside from periods of debauchery like Constantinople and Rome and various other ones, we lived lives of relative modesty, okay? So let me just take a guess at a pseudo statistic, but I'm probably pretty close. So the rate of ejaculation or orgasm amongst both men and women per capita, doesn't matter what the planetary population is at the time, but per capita, the rate of ejaculation now is per capita is probably 10 times higher than any period in history. Okay, I mean, yeah, there's always been brothels and stuff like that. Okay, men have prostitution is one of the oldest professions in the world. But, most men who use those services, they're like Gauguin and Van Gogh, both two solitary men devoted to their painting, and to satisfy their carnal needs, they went to a brothel every 2 weeks in France. Or in France. I thought I said in Paris there. So they went to a brothel every 2 weeks, right? Because you have to deal with the needs of the body. And if you're not married, you have to go and find that somewhere. I have no idea why this camera keeps rolling like this. I think I'm going to take off the center stage. There we go. And so you've got men ejaculating once every 2 weeks. Now, I don't know anything about the asexual behavior of Van Gogh and Gauguin, but your average regular porn watcher, male porn watcher, will ejaculate anywhere between 2 and 10 times a day. Now, I want you to think about that. I mean, they weren't even doing that in Rome. Yeah, they had the orgies and everything, but they weren't even doing that in Rome. What does that do? I'm not saying there's anything immoral with that. Okay, I'm not applying a moral judgment to it. I'm asking you to look at it energetically in context to the model of manifestation I'm giving in tonight's podcast. Okay? Where is your energy going? And if they want you doing something and a normal human being in their right state of mind wouldn't do it, how would you change that state of mind and make it amenable to people? Well, you give them something they want. You create an addiction and you fulfill the addiction. The addiction is self-pleasure. You fulfill it with pornography. There you go. Wake up tomorrow and go do your boring coding job at the software company that's building a new software system for the air traffic control center at the local airport. About as much fun as writing a fucking phone book. Right? That's how they get people to do things. But everybody has been conscripted in some way now. And the people who succeed most are highly competitive. Okay, highly competitive people do very well in this world, in this society, and the way they've set everything up. There we go. They do very, very well. So they've locked in all the energy by literally buying everybody off. Spiritually buying them off so that they're not working on their own development, their own life, their own dreams, and their own desires. Everybody's been bought off. Everybody's a Mexican cop. Everybody's working for Sinaloa. It's so bad now. My son told me 1 in 10 women between 18 and 24 in North America are on OnlyFans. And he added, they have to be at least a 7 out of 10 looks-wise to even be able to make $500 or $1,000 a month. And the 9s and the 10s, they're making $1 million a year. Okay? And again, I'm not judging. It's got nothing to do with me. But here's the thing. Countless people over the decades have been put in jail for living off the avails of prostitution. Okay, for example, in Costa Rica, prostitution is legal, pimping is not. You see where I'm going with this? So it's illegal for a man to have a stable of women he protects, and a pimp does protect the women because it's dangerous to walk the streets. That's no longer needed. It's all OnlyFans now, and there's no physical contact. There's just a two-dimensional interface, and the woman talks the man through a performance to an ejaculation. Now, here's the thing. The woman on OnlyFans, she has to pay tax on that income. The IRS is going after some of the big names on OnlyFans because these women, and I would argue in their defense on this point, they thought, well, we don't have to pay taxes. It's my body. No, it's all this my body, my choice thing is all fine and dandy until you cut into the fucking government's cheddar. Then you're going to see Freddie, the back of Freddie's hand, bitch. That's your government. Okay? And then to add insult to injury, we get pseudo-moralizing leaders like Justin Trudeau constantly berating us for not being progressive enough. Misogynists and homophobes were the ones, and anti-science people were the ones who didn't want to get the vaccine. He actually said this out loud. Literally trying to create a lynch mob mentality in the vaccinated. And he calls that leadership. We can't sink any lower. Okay? So our collective consciousness was hijacked to manifest their reality. And now that it's manifest or nearly manifest, you understand why they're depopulating. And to do the depopulation, they need the Antichrist program. Because the Antichrist will rationalize it for all the fucking idiots who buy into the program. It's that simple. Everything is really simple when you perceive correctly, but you have to understand how consciousness works, and that is a spiritual understanding. Psychics don't get it. They get little, you had a peanut butter sandwich for lunch, and I see that you cut up a Dole banana. Am I correct? Yeah, and it was whole wheat bread. Yeah, I'm psychic. What's the context? Who gives a shit? You know? I sometimes feel alone in the world. I say to him, am I the only one seeing this? And then I realize, no, I'm not. And I get that from you folks in some measure, with the comments and the stuff you say. So this is the Antichrist program. And the Antichrist program is now going to decapitate the lower echelons of the Satanic Society. They're going to offer up the plea. So when societies depopulate, they depopulate the peasants. I don't think there was too much nobility that died in the London fire, right? It mainly ripped through the shanty town, the wood housing in London. And now this anti-life cult is going to begin culling its lower ranks. Now there's a perfect analogy for this if you're a TV watcher and you've seen a television show that came out in 2014 called True Detective Season 1. Matthew McConaughey, Woody Harrelson. Now, I'm at this point only speaking to the people who've seen the TV show. And this is just to sum up tonight's show. Halfway through the show, like episode 5 of 8 episodes, 1 hour episodes, and it's like a really well done 8 hour movie. Halfway through episode 5, the entire public is convinced that the killers in these ritual killings have been captured. But no, it's just the lower rung, the acolytes. And it's brilliantly done. And that's what Donald Trump is. Okay? He is well, I can't say for sure he's the Antichrist, but he's a viable candidate for the program. Remember, they're just programs. And I mean, there's 8 or 9 billion people on the planet. He's a viable candidate to fulfill the program. Okay? So all of this is planned. And the plan is a dystopian, technologically controlled world with artificial intelligence where human beings have no more rights and may even, and I'm borrowing this phrase from Jimmy Jean, may even have their cognitive liberty taken away. And this is the true definition of freedom. This is what I mean. This is what I meant yesterday when I said, when I say freedom, I don't mean I'm driving around in a red pickup truck with a shotgun in the back on a window rack in the back of the pickup truck of the cab with a Confederate flag license plate. That's not what I mean by freedom. I mean the freedom to grow your consciousness. So if they succeed in this endeavor, and this is, again, they're working with extra dimensionals and extraterrestrials, and there's a cosmic set of law. And if they don't violate the cosmic law too egregiously, and they can pass the free will test, they can convince the higher forces in an adjudication process that we, the human race, gave our consent to this, they lock down the planet and they own it. Because in this consciousness manifestation reality, in this universe, you live the thoughts you had. You sleep in the bed you made. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this has been the Talamanca Review.